Welcome to the Las Vegas IT Management Podcast. And today I have the pleasure to be speaking with Matt, who's been an IT professional for 33 years, which is a long time. Welcome, Matt.
Very long time. How's it going?
Yes, very, very long time. I can only imagine the differences that you've seen within the last 33 years. Just curious, how did you get involved within this IT industry?
It was the nature of, just growing up. I grew up in Southern California, but I'm a child of the late 70s, mid 80s. So along with music and everything else, the only thing that we had, two things that we did as kids, we went to bowling alleys or we went to arcades. And then we graduated from that into the malls, which still involved arcades. And video games always blew me away. Even back, when I was, 7, 8 years old, when it was still just barely hitting 1980, games were still so infant in their graphics. Asteroids, when it came out in color, was just like, whoa, they got it in color now. It's 4 colors. And just through the years, I was always enamored by technology, and I always watched how the consoles got better from Atari to Nintendo. And when I got into my teenage years and hit high school, I was still, probably back then, junior and senior year, if you were good grades and everything, you basically only went half a day of school every year. So my junior and senior years, I was out of school 12:30, 1 o'clock every afternoon. At the arcade, I started learning how to work on them. And from there, it just graduated into everything. I got into IT. My mom had a computer she didn't want anymore. Told me if I didn't come get it, she was going to throw it in the trash. And I went over there, got it, and I literally started my career on my dining room table going, okay, how's this thing work? And went from there, started in a computer store and just went through the ranks.
That is so awesome, Matt. Thank you for sharing that. I do really, really appreciate that. That's awesome. I'm sure there's been a lot of changes. Being a child, I grew up in the 90s, but I do remember those games that you did talk about. So thank you for sharing that with me. And you did mention, so pretty much it was your mom that sparked that interest
It
in
was mom
technology?
and life in general. I was always anything that had technology in it, from remote control cars to arcade games to, I was the guy that sat there, back in, this is how old I am. We still had TV repair guys come to the house and fix the TV when it didn't work. And we'd move it out from the wall and they'd take the back off and I'd sit there and just watch the guy work on it. And it was always ingrained in me. And whether it was mechanical or technical, it was something I was interested in. I learned how to tear my own bike apart as a kid and it just grew from there. But when it came to technology, I guess I saw it early. I got gifted enough to see it early. I knew it was going to be this huge breadth of just ever changing, never the same thing, never going to be boring, monotonous, repetitive. And that just grabbed my whole attention because at the time I was an electrician, trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I still had to work as, 18, 19-year-old, running wires all day, every day, all day, every day, all day, every day. Got old really quick, where in 33 years of IT, it's never been repetitive. Even going from, for instance, doing car dealerships, go from one dealership to another dealership just to set them up. There's still some nuances and changes in the way that people do things differently. You have to deal with it, mitigate it, and do it, and it keeps it fun.
Got it. No, I could see that. And within 33 years of experiences in the industry, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen since you started in 1991?
The way that it's the cat and mouse game of security versus the bad guys, the constant I call it the Tom and Jerry effect. It's been back and forth. It used to be so small and so every so often, oh, this company got hacked and they got, a virus that slowed down their computers, to where now you have ransomware where they can literally hijack your whole business, take it away from you, give us $3 million or you don't have the company anymore, that kind of thing. And then the other change, of course, has just been watching the technology get from the size of a room down to the size of the phones. Just anybody that's been in it 10 years has seen how fast computers have gotten just in a short span. I can remember where to do what we do with our iPhones now required at least a tote bag full of equipment to have the same thing with the video camera and what a cell phone was in 1995 and things like that. To be able to do what you can do with an iPhone now, you had to have all of that. And that's the biggest change is how it's affect everything in life. I use smart home, so I have Alexa in my house and I control my lights and AC and things like that. And if you would have told me that in the 80s and even the 90s, and hey, Matt, one day you'll be able to tell your house what to do, I would have been like, yeah, most of it's come true, but get out of here with that one. And here I am. I do it on a daily basis now. It's amazing.
Right. And a lot of us, especially the 90s, there was a lot of movies about the things that we're able to do now. But now, it's came to true the true life. And one of the things when I was asking you about, what did you want to talk about? You mentioned that, the customer first approach, but what inspired you to take a customer first approach within your career, and how has that shaped the way you operate today?
My own frustrations with learning how to use these things myself, not literally being a customer. Tech support in 94, 95, and, the beginning of, computers really starting to flow into business. It wasn't there. If you were a child of the 90s, Nintendo used to have a little hotline. You could call the hotline and they'd walk you through playing Legend of Zelda. That is kind of what tech support was more like. If you were trying to use, because most people bought their computers at Sears or Kmart, things like that, a home department store. So when you called, it's like maybe they were trying to teach you how to learn the use the encyclopedia or understand literally how the solitaire game worked. But it was my frustration with what tech support wasn't, and how they would just, you could tell they were just reading a script in front of them, and they weren't really empathizing with the customer, listening to why are they frustrated? What is their main issue? Is it really the computer, or is it something they're trying to do? Just a lack of empathy and attention to what it might be, and just try to run through a script. And it's sorrowfully, it's even out there today. A lot of MSPs, you call an MSP, and they start running you through this process of yada yada yada. And it's like, I call you guys all the time. This happens every other Monday. You guys should have a history of that. Can you just reset my password, please? Because there's those users out there. There's always a company that has something legacy they don't want to upgrade, and the CEO is stuck with it. And the CEO is the CEO. As long as he says, "I'm going to keep using this," your job as the IT guy is keep that going. And what really got my attention to the customer first approach was the first time I ever really interacted with Dell. And it was when remote support was just starting to get off the ground. And I was having a really bad issue with a computer that I just bought. It was $1,800. I was pretty upset. And the Dell guy goes, "Hey, push this button and allow me to come in and see what you're seeing, and I can help you." That flipped my whole idea of what tech support should be, and how you treat a customer. Because he was like, "Oh, okay, I see you were trying to do that." And he immediately understood what I was having an issue trying to explain to him. And that's when I understood at that point in time, and kept it that way since. Always understand what the customer's trying to do, why they're trying to do it, and why they called you in the first place. Don't just, "Oh, well, my word isn't working. Oh, okay, well, let's just go in and do all of this stuff." Understand why they're calling you in the first place. It changes the day for you and for them.
That's true. And I've dealt with when people aren't willing to help you, or just, they're trying to take out that customer
Mm-hmm.
first approach, and it sucks. It really does suck.
Yeah, it's like, why
Uh,
are you on the other end of the phone? You can tell you just don't want to be there. Go home, bro.
right. Right. No, exactly. And then when it comes, many MSPs prioritize the bottom line over the customer care. How does your approach differ, and why do you think this is super important?
Part of it is most of my career has been split between the East Coast and Vegas here, so I call it the West Coast. It really is two different worlds, and I don't want to say it's maybe just Vegas, but I've talked to some people and I've done some work up in Reno, and Reno's a little different. But a lot of the managed service providers here are, how many guys can I get in my room, sitting at my desk, going through my tickets and just knocking out tickets all day? That's what they're worried about, because they correlate the amount of tickets to happy customers, which may or may not be true. Um, you can have customers that just don't want to pick up the phone and call because maybe they don't like the process. I've worked for a couple of managed service providers here in town that don't even take their own inbound phone calls, which that floored me. It's like, if you have a first call closure metric in your ticket system and you don't take your inbound call, where are you getting any first call closures? Because you're calling the customer back. That's not a first call close. But the the customer is why you exist. And I worked for managed service providers where I worked 180 days never visiting a customer site. And that struck me odd. It was like 6 months and I haven't been to see a customer. And then I had some customers like, "Hey, when are you guys going to come out and see us? Can we have some stuff?" And one thing I noticed over the years, unless you're standing there, there's always something you're not being told as the IT guy. And if you've ever done the service work, you walk into a company where you're finishing up a project for what you guys do at your company, and, "Oh, hey, since you're here, I forgot to tell Mike about this thing. Every time I try to do this acts up. Can you handle that real quick?" And it's an attention. And if you're not there, if you don't see the customer, if you're not visiting the customer, you can't claim to be customer first, because if you're not, you're just driven about how many tickets are we closing, everything else. ticket closure doesn't mean happy customers. If you're just knocking out, tickets are closed, okay, closing the ticket still requires a message to go out to the customer, and then you wait on the confirmation of all of that. So there's a lot of back end things that get messed around. But in my opinion, if you're really about the customer first, you have a routine where at least every 2 weeks, at the absolute least every 30 days, you go out and visit the customer, even if you take Dunkin' Donuts and coffee. Hey guys, nobody's called with any problems in a month. I just wanted to come out and check on everything, take a look at things, bring y'all some coffee and donuts, see how y'all are doing. And a lot of them don't do that anymore. They just put a value on how many tickets in my system are getting closed every day. And the difference is how many customers you see hop from managed service provider to managed service provider. And that's the one thing that here runs more rampant than what I experienced on the East Coast, but I also understand it in the past 10 years as remote tools get more flexible and available and automation becomes more rampant. Yeah, you can pull back from seeing the customer, but I do see a lot of businesses where it's just like, oh, we haven't been to their site in 3 months. Well, so how do you know the server closet's okay? Oh, they tell us it's fine, the kind of thing. I don't know. I believe if somebody's paying you every month to manage their business and their technology and keep them up and running, you should go out and see them once a month. Hi, Tom, how you doing? I want to come out and just look at everything, see, and take care of things while you're there. If somebody's moved some things around since you've been there last, make sure the cables are neat, nobody's tripping. It's more than just a ticket system.
Got it. No, and I agree with you. But how does a someone keep up with their customers when it comes to, making sure that they do those drop bys, but also with, every other thing that's going on in that person's life or
And
customers'
it's
faces?
that becomes, and having been a business owner as an MSP many, many years ago, I understand exactly what you're meaning. You can very easily get overrun by one or the other, so it becomes a self-discipline thing. If if you're like me, whenever I put my schedule together, I'm always going to put a block somewhere that I can absorb during a day for whatever it may be. Whether, oh, I got to write this extra document for this customer because the problem I fixed. It's going to require me to write this 3-page triage, something like that. Use that same method in your, hey, I need to go see this customer. Hey, I haven't seen ABC Incorporated since July. I'm going out there Friday. Nobody can schedule me for anything between 9 and 11. I won't be here. I'll be at the customer. I can take calls, but that kind of thing. And it's a discipline, and also keeping on top of what it is you do as a managed service provider. I see there's a few managed service providers out there that have a really great breadth of knowledge, but their entire team is a team of quarterbacks. You will never win a Super Bowl if every position player is a quarterback. You got no defense, you got no free safety, you got nobody that can run down the field. The other team's going to run all over you. That's exactly a way to parlay it into the working world. You can't take a team of quarterbacks into the game of life and win because you have no defense against virus. You have no, backup solutions. You have nobody going out there and making sure they're receiving the problems that are coming in. Who's quarterbacking the business and what's happening and everything else. Everybody's just taking things on a whim. It's part how you run the business and part discipline, making sure that you find that time for the customers because you exist because of them, and never forget that.
Got it. Awesome. Agreed. Is there a software that you recommend just to kind of keep up with this, or is there one that you've used in the past?
Believe it or not, I do 99% of my stuff just using Outlook. You got your calendar, you got task lists in there and everything else. For the MSP side of things, everything out there is beautiful. From you have ConnectWise, you have everything. ConnectWise is a big boy for, the major MSPs use that, integrates with your billing software, things like that. But when you're a smaller company, 3, 4 technicians, couple engineers, whatever your software system is like that, you manage your bringing on your new clients based on how well you're taking care of your other clients. And you use your software to just keep track of everything. Your ticketing system, whatever ticketing system you use, will integrate with your Outlook and your systems like that and keep your calendar for you. So it's 20% you as the person staying on top of it, and then 80% what you have in place is your systems to keep you, organized. People that go out there and try to do everything on notepads and paper like I used to do in the 90s, I found out the hard way. You lose track sooner or later.
Right. So many people try to do so, and then they, as you said, lose track. You also mentioned that you prefer an in-person client interactions, like site visits, as you mentioned, and lunch and learns. Can you share some examples where these personal touch points made a significant difference within your clients?
Um, Basically, it all comes down to that can stick to the end user support and education side of things. Like when you're rolling out a new software package at a client and, everybody needs to know how to use it. Maybe it's something they've never used before. Maybe it's a significant upgrade that's going to change look and feel of a lot of things. Like maybe if you were around in 2007 when Office 2007 came out, a lot of people, including myself, was like, "What did you do to my program? Where's the new email button? Where'd the calendar go?" And we all had to learn that. I found out because of that exact thing, Office 2007. We tried to just send out some documents. I was at the Spiegel Fashion Catalog as an IT guy back then. And we just tried to send out a few documents saying, hey, when you guys come in on Monday, we're going to do this upgrade over the weekend. Have fun. And by Monday afternoon, we were all out in the parking lot smoking half a pack of cigarettes every 30 seconds, going, we can't handle the calls. There are too many of them. So we immediately turned around, rolled back. We literally rolled back the upgrade that night. And we said, okay, let's do a class. And we figured out, we spent 3 days writing a class. We tested it with some people bringing it in. And we figured out if we brought in 35, 40 people into a room with a presentation and ran through the simple things like this is how you do an email. Here's where they moved your stuff. Here's this new thing called a ribbon, and this is why it's here. We went from getting 10 to 15 calls every hour on what people couldn't find in their email, their calendar, whatever, to maybe one or two per day, just because we took that time to slow it down and give everybody an hour attention in 35, 40 people groups. Here's how you do it. And 45 minutes was here's how you do it, and 15 minutes was anybody have any question, and we live answered them. So, well, how did I do this in the old Outlook? How did I go in and do that right on screen? Here you go. And, we showed them and they retained it. And whether you're training new software, especially if you're doing security, a lot of managed service providers, they just send out some test emails and then they'll call you back and they say, hey, why did Melissa open that email? She should have said no, it was spam. And now you're infected, as tricks. And I don't think you should do that. I think you should show up and do a lunch and learn. I would come in with a laptop or a computer that I don't mind infecting with a virus because I want people to, I don't want them to hear about it on the internet. I want them to see what that happens because it has the effect you needed to have when you're trying to protect that organization, especially if they're into finances, holding any customer information that might be, privacy information, social security, things like that. You always want to make sure that you can get that embedded. And every time that I've ever done it myself or experienced as an end user, when you're in the class and they show you how to do it and they have key things that make you remember, whatever those things are, you retain it as the end user much more. And every time I've ever done that versus not, the end result has been what we have time to do otherwise because we don't have the phone calls of how did you do it? Why do we do this? This isn't working anymore. And that's the main difference is the lunch and learns, it shows that you care about the customer and it's you're there for them. It's not you're in an office waiting for them to call you and then you're kind of reactive. It's more proactive from you as well for the customer. You're there. Hey guys, I'm here. We covered all of this. We had some donuts or coffee. I got another 15 minutes. What other questions do you have? And branch it out and show that you care. And they take that not only to what they're working on in the office, but they're working on in their own life. Like I've had people say, hey, you know how you showed us how to secure our phones? Thank you so much for that. I did that to my bank accounts. I feel so much better about, having my phone and not worrying about my bank account getting hacked on my phone. And, it makes a huge difference in person versus just standing back and being reactive.
Got it. No, I totally agree with that. So thank you for sharing, Matt. What do you think is currently missing in the current IT landscapes when it comes to client relationships, and how do you address that in your work?
What I see declining, I won't say it's completely missing, but it's definitely what I call the red flag in the industry that all of us old schoolers are going to look at. Talent is getting tremendous. The talent that can come in and work on the issues and solve the problems, engineer the systems, they are great until you put an angry customer in their ear, and then they literally fold and ball up in the corner, and it's like, oh no, don't yell at me. And I think that the handling, what's missing is that ability for them to be thick-skinned and handle that angry customer, because what we do as a living as IT guys, 99.5% of the time, when we pick up the phone, you already should know as you lift it to your ear, somebody's angry because if you got a phone call, something's not working, most likely. And you have to relay that into how you treat the customer. And what's missing is both sides of that. The techs that are incredible at being a tech, but not so much being customer reactive and empathizing. And you have to be a person. And at the same time, I think another thing that's missing is the ability to relax a customer right away. Like one of my favorite things in the world, and I have yet for it to blow up in my face. Somebody hits me up, oh, hey man, my computer froze up. Put a blanket on it, I'll be right there. You always get a smile cracked when they read that. Did he just tell me to put a blanket on my computer? It's like, he said it was freezing. I'll be right there. Because you're trying to lighten the mood, take it off of them, because it's going to let them sigh and relax. Let them slow down a little bit to explain to you what's going on, which is going to allow you to slow down to hear what's going on, solve the problem, and move forward. And I really think that's missing on every time in the past, even pre-COVID, 6 years, where I've been at an MSP where we are taking a customer from one MSP into ours. It's always been the same complaint. They just they seemed to only react, and they didn't really care about what I was saying, and they just said, oh, we'll go here and do this. Here's a document from Google. And it's like, well, I could have just Googled that myself. Why am I paying you? And I think that's what's missing is the both sides of that interaction. And one of the things I try to do in my approach is, even if I'm working at a customer where they have their own IT department, if I notice that kind of standoffishness, I try to have a conversation with them. It's like, hey, lighten up to the customer a little bit. I know they're mad, but you're used to that because if this is what you want to do for the next 30 years, that's what you're going to hear 9 times out of 10 when you pick up the phone. And like a cashier that smiles at you every day at the store, always smile when you pick up the phone. And I'm here for you. You called me. I'm going to make sure that the reason you called me goes bye bye.
Got it. And I thank you for sharing that. Agreed. You did mention to me you've done everything from cabling installations to setting up full startups. How has having such a wide range of hands on experience influenced your approach to IT management?
It especially helps on the backside of things when I need to understand the whole picture, whether it be anything. I'm helping this customer move from one office to a new office, and we need to understand all the infrastructure that needs to be in place prior to that move. To going in and understanding, well, my internet is broken. Okay, having installed the whole everything from the green box into the building, into the modem, and out. I All the key points that I need to worry about are in my head from doing that. So it's it adds to the breadth of knowledge, similar to a race car driver. If you have a hotshot race car driver that can drive really good, but he's never lifted a wrench in his life, and then you have his competition who can also drive really really good, but can also get out of the car and change the tire himself if he had to. I guarantee you, in a race with bad roads, the second guy's going to win the race every time because the other guy's going to be stuck in the car going, "I got a flat, guys, come fix it." And he's just going to sit there waiting. And it involves into the IT because he understands how the tire goes on the car, how the tire turns, what makes the tire turn, what makes the engine work. The more you understand about it, the better you can support it. And the more that you can understand when you're that liaison between your end users that you're getting ready to move into the office and all the people that are involved with making that office ready for you, from your cabling contractors to any system contractors you might have, third party vendors for point of sale systems, things like that. It's a point of sale guy comes in and says, oh, hey, everything's up and ready to go. And it's like, that's great. I haven't turned on the internet yet. How'd you do that? It's those kinds of things. And it helps in more ways than one. And it's the best application of that is in major projects, knowing how the project goes from A to Z and understanding the workflow. Whether I'm a lead on the project or just a technician, having that knowledge helps me work around and be the best thing in the situations.
Got it. And that totally makes sense. And, technology changes off very often.
Mhm.
As technology has evolved, how have you balanced being old school in your customer approach with staying new school in areas like automation, recovery, and cloud systems?
Cloud systems and disaster recovery, I don't give too much to automation. There's a lot of automation I use on the backside for things that have to be done when you're adding users, so that you don't have to go add them here, add them here, add them here. Scripting on that side of things. Disaster recovery, I will probably never trust the automation. Period. End of story. I am one that I will always check my own backups at least once every 30 days. I'll go grab a random backup and say, oh, somebody in accounting lost this file today. Let's see if I can get it back. I want to see that file come back. I want to see it go into a folder. I want to open it, look at it, say, okay, disaster recovery completed. That's something I'm probably never going to change, just because I don't ever want to be that guy that said, I trusted the system that failed, and at the same time, this system failed automatically to notify me. your systems went down and now I don't have a way to get you back. I That's just a position no IT guy ever wants to be in. But automation on the flip side of management, helping with patch management, watching systems, I use that to my advantage. And it actually helps with the old school approach. I get somebody's server, I have my RMM system on there and it's monitoring what the server's doing. And I consistently see that every day around 4 o'clock it gets into the red and it's just going to have a problem one day. I'll reach out. Hey guys, how you doing? You got 10 minutes? I want to talk about this thing I see with the server and see if I can mitigate it for you this weekend. Make sure it's not going to interfere with anything. And the eye openings you get from the customers that come back later that usually ended up calling either my supervisor or somebody else being like, Matt called me and told me the server was doing this and he explained it and showed us what was happening. He's going to fix it Friday. He's like, that's awesome. We don't have to worry about anything. Everything's good. As opposed to them getting a phone call after the disaster happens. And it's like, hey guys, everything's down, stay home. And the first thing you have is now a manager that's not only mad because all the systems are down, now he's going to pay all these people to stay home. You don't have an ETA because you just found out what's broken. And, it snowballs into a big mess.
Got it. So that's a great way to kind of stay on top of it before an actual issue happens. Is that what you're saying, Matt?
Yeah, it's automation definitely helps us out in that area because we can all the things that we used to do going through a cadence of let's go check these systems, check these systems. Now it's automated. We don't even need to worry about it as technicians, and they will tell us, we any of the reputable systems out there, hey, this computer keeps having a hard drive issue every night. Check the hard drive, and if you ignore it, I sooner or later you're going to get ticketed. That hey, my computer won't come on, and it's pretty solid. I could say over the last 15, 20 years, it's done nothing but get better and better and more efficient for us to keep us on top of that customer interaction. And when it's used properly, it makes us better.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And what is your management philosophy and how do you ensure that your team members feel empowered to contribute to projects?
If whether I'm managing a team or whether I'm part of a team or whether I've even been asked, just come in and be, consultant to the team, it's always the same. The key word is team. You need leadership in the focus of the project and the scope of the work and how to get to the results. But the leadership of the team comes from every member of the team. If the team is put together properly and resourced properly, like a football team, everybody's resourced for that position. And the management philosophy is everybody here helps everybody reach the end of the project. What do we have to do to get it done? And I learned that from also the Spiegel Catalog companies where I had a lot of really eye-opening experiences because I worked for some really great leadership with Tom Scott. And one of the first things he ever did that really blew my mind that pertains to this is we were doing a company-wide refresh, 400 brand new machines, and we all met. We had Hampton, Virginia, and New York offices, and we all met at Hampton, New York in the morning. And he had to leave; he was in a hurry. He says, "Y'all, blah 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 blah. You guys are flighting out at 2:30. You guys will land at 5:30. I get there later this evening. I'll see you there." What we didn't know is he had to leave to go catch his flight to New York City. When we got to the New York office, all of us got there, the other five of us engineers got there at about 6 p.m. Got up to the fourth floor where the pallets of computers were. Tom Scott, in a $300 dress shirt, rolled all the way up to the edge of his arms, tie off, dripping sweat, has already got 66 computers completely unboxed, set up, and imaged. And he's the CIO of the company making $250,000 a year in 2007. All of us looked at each other and said, we need to get to work. And it that was the day I saw a leader, in my opinion. Boss went out the window, guy telling me to screaming to me what to do went out the window. That's when I learned what leader meant because he was right there with us through the whole project. If we were on the ground crawling under desks, so was he. He actually did more grabbing the old machines, putting them on carts, and basically busting them out of the building than any of us did. And to me, that was just incredible. The guy made $250,000 a year. Didn't think at all about doing that at all. He was just there with us in the trenches. That's a team, and that's how it works.
Got it. No, and I totally agree with you. I could share with you many top times when I've seen that, which I think is awesome. Can you discuss a time when your hands-on style led to a successful project overcome?
The majority of the ones that we do, whether it's one project, small project I'm doing myself, or whether it's a team of us doing something together, anything that we do in the IT world requires, even if it's a solo project, like I'm cleaning out this server closet because it's a mess. I still need to collaborate with everybody that uses anything at work that travels through that closet, whether it's data, whatever. Having the hands-on approach and being there, I'm not a project coordinator that sits at a desk and just tries to mitigate things on the phone back and forth to make sure everything is okay. I'm standing in the room saying, okay, guys, I'm about to do this part of this project. These are the people I know will be affected if I do it. Is everybody good with me doing this now? Do I need to wait? And the hands-on approach has helped me in that respect of, again, just knowing the whole process from the top down and being able to mitigate that and understand that everything that I do has a consequence to one or multiple end users if I'm not collaborating with everybody.
Got it. And just from what I've seen so far, you've just shared with us the importance of bridging the gap between complex IT systems and the users who rely on them. Why is this critical focus for you?
The more that they understand the nuances on both sides of what they're doing, it makes their life a little bit easier when they have to call us. Like back in the day, in the mid 2000s, QuickBooks is what everybody used, but for us, it was a nightmare. When QuickBooks did updates on the weekends, it was like, anybody sleep last night? No, I've been on the phone with QuickBooks for 7 different people because nobody can get into their payroll because QuickBooks updated everything last night. Okay. And it, that, how do I put it? It's, it was really tough because the users didn't understand why this always broke. And eventually we'd have to break it down with key stakeholders and be like, so QuickBooks used to be this simple little thing that ran on your computer, but now they've made it run on this server and it interfaces with all these other things. And if QuickBooks goes out and says, I need this from you to this system, and the system doesn't answer, QuickBooks doesn't know what to do. And then when QuickBooks does an update and it sees a character somebody mistyped in a name, like a period in an actual name field, QuickBooks was really bad for that. If it said first name and somebody put a period in there, that would actually crash QuickBooks back in the day. But teaching those nuances to the end user helped alleviate them and also made them understand to ease the frustration. It's like, oh, QuickBooks is down again. Yeah, but it's because that update last night. Call Matt, he'll have it fixed in a few minutes. And it eases the impact of everything. And I always involve the customers in that, So I'm, as you could probably be aware, sometimes I've been told, Matt, you talk too much. And I was like, show me a customer that never complained about it. And nobody can ever do that. I like to make sure that my customers understand that I am a doctor for their machines in no different capacity than their doctor is for their body. The difference between me and a medical doctor is I'm playing with electricity and silicone and copper parts. They're playing with a heartbeat, blood, and a human being. But what we do, how we approach it, how we solve it, how we explain it is the same. We have an oath not only to fix the technology and the broken health in the technology, but to make sure the person using it, i.e., the brain using the body that broke, understands what he's using and what he can and can't do. It's like, Matt, you're 60 years old. Stop jumping off of 2-story houses. You're going to have a broken leg every time. That kind of thing. And it works across the board.
Got it. No, that really does make sense. So thank you for sharing that with me, Matt. And what strategies do you use to explain technical issues in straightforward terms to help users feel more confident with their technology?
I always try to use the simplest daily life things that I can find. Like, hey, Matt, how come my internet's so slow here? And at our other office, it was really fast. Well, Mike, we just moved in, and right now we're on a brand new street that's only got one lane. We were on the Santa Ana Freeway where you were at before, so we had 8 lanes in both directions. Right now, they're only bulldozing the one lane. Cox will be out here next week, and we'll have 5 lanes in each direction again. So, and oh, okay, that makes sense, man. I appreciate that. And and that's the best way to explain anything, especially in technology. Is always find the simplest way to relate it to something that we do every day. It's like, hey Matt, everybody's downloading Word and nobody can get any work done because it's going so slow. That's because Microsoft sees that 50 of you from the same location are downloading the program right now, so they're pulling the switch back because they don't want to make everybody else's life miserable, which is literally what they do. And so it's the simplest way. The movie Contact from the 90s, a space movie about a astrologer. Occam's razor. Sometimes the simplest explanation is just the way it is. And that's exactly how internet traffic works. You know, your internet's slow. Back in the 90s when we were on America Online and you picked up the phone and heard the, you couldn't download a song in one day back then because we weren't even on one lane right there. We were riding a bike on the little dots that they put in between the lanes and trying to, you know, imagine using a bicycle on that, trying to carry a truckload of boxes. And then they widen the street. Okay, now you can make your platform bigger, carry more boxes in a shorter box. And that's exactly how data traffic worked. You know, they made the roads bigger, then they made the trucks bigger, then they made the lanes bigger, then they made the trucks bigger. And now we have trucks that can carry trains in one load on the internet. You can download movies in 10 minutes, you know, where I tried to do that in the 90s. It's Monday. I'll start downloading this now. Hey guys, I got Sunday's movie will be here on Saturday afternoon. We can start watching it then. And it always explained it in the simplest terms, no matter what it is. Even it was, well, hey Matt, how come the update screwed everything up? And it's like, so when you have a machine running around and it's always A B C D A B C D A B C D A B C D, you take out C and put a second D in there. Now it's A B D D. The machine's going to go, huh? Wait a minute. Nobody explain it, and that's why those happen. So to always use the simplest way to break it down and make them understand. That goes back to some of the things I told you, the really great texts that don't have the customer interaction. It's like, well, you know, I was doing the GPO and I set it to map your drives for, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the customer's going, what? And so always, you remember, always keeping the idea that you're talking to the customer and their gear, not you and your team.
Got it. Yeah, and I think that's super important no matter what industry you're in. And I feel like
Mhm.
sometimes as we've been in an industry for a very long time, especially with you being in industry for 33 years, sometimes you forget that the customer may not understand, but not you, but other people.
Yeah,
So
it
I'm
gets
glad.
really hard, especially when you're in a routine of like a lot of help desk tier one and tier two people will get in, especially like after an upgrade where it's just been Monday morning, there's been nothing but call after call after call because Office 365 messed up. So everybody's been resetting passwords. Now somebody calls and it's not a password thing. It's like, oh no, I don't have a problem with that. I tried to open this file in Adobe and it's you get jumbled and a lot of the text get things like that.
Got it.
So
No, that's true. Thank you for sharing that. And what is your approach to ensuring that the IT solutions that you implement are not only technically sound, but also user friendly?
I vet everything as a user. Hype doesn't sell me. You might get my attention with hype, like, hey, this new product that's coming out looks really, really good. This is going to change the construction industry. The iPad did that, especially when they came out with the Apple Pen. Changed not only the construction industry, the photo editing industry, changed everything. But the commercial didn't get me. I had to put one in my hand and I had to see what it could do myself as a user. Okay, why is this going to change the construction industry? Oh, hey, you want that change? I'm standing here and you want me to move that light from there to there. Sign this change order. And I email it to you, because I know you guys do cabling and things like that. I email it to you. Hey, customer said I want to move this light over here. So I'm going to move this exit light 6 inches. Here's the change order. We're good. And that changed the process of, okay, what used to be, well, here's the change order. I got it signed. I'll take it back to the office, get in the system. I'll bring the parts out with me tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. So just proving that it will change the technology is what I do with everything that I do. Because I do that as the user. It's like, okay, this is going to make my users 20% more productive. How? Oh, okay. So instead of taking this file from here and putting it here and then putting it here and putting it here, now I can just go from here to here. I'll buy that because that's going to make it. So now I just took 50% of my steps out of my employee's process. Let's go. And the salesman will tell you it does that, and they'll always tell you it does that. And then 10 minutes after you bought it, you're going, you said it does this, and it's getting there doing a little tiny thingy, and it's just spinning. Oh, yeah, it does that too. It's like, well, you didn't tell me that before I gave you the money. And so
Right.
I'm always that user because it's what I'm paid to do, not only as your client advocate for IT, but I'm the guy that has to work on it. And I'm not going to get yelled at later because Matt, you told us to install this because you said it was going to do that. And that has happened to me many, many years ago where we were sold on this AutoCAD, add-on that was going to change the world and it didn't. And I got yelled at because I believe the sale. I didn't try it. And that's when I immediately learned that would never happen to me again. So I always approach the technology I'm going to implement as the customer as well as the technician. So I know all the things I'm going to ask how I'm going to keep this running, but how am I going to make sure my users get what they're paying for?
Got it. And that's very, very important. And that makes people very happy.
Yes, it
uh,
does.
It does. As the IT field continues to evolve, what opportunities currently excite you the most?
Just to see how automation is just going to get better and better and better and allow us to do what I believe every IT guy's goal should be, and it pertains to this second half of this question too. Automation is going to make us better, which is going to free us up to do more of the things that we lose in the day to day of what we do. Any IT guy that tells you he has no open tickets that he needs to go work on is not telling the truth. I've been doing this 33 years, and there's always something that maybe you didn't put in a ticket, but there's always something that you can go do that's going to make the environment better. Our main job is to work ourselves out of a job. We will never succeed because technology is not, it moves too fast. But that should be our goal every day. I don't want my customers calling me for resetting passwords. So thank you, NIST, a new thing that's come out lately. The whole rule of thumb to change your password every 30, 60, 90 days is now no longer recommended by NIST. It actually is worse to do that than to set one good password, leave it alone, unless it gets compromised. And over the years, security breaches have proven, well, yeah, it's because this person changed their password every 30 days. They got tired of remembering these long passwords, so they made them simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler. You got hacked. And that's going to free us up to take care of all those issues and go, hey, those things we couldn't do before, like Velcroing cable and all of that. It's just going to get better and better and get us further towards that goal. The idea for an IT guy is we should be calling you people to say, hey, this new technology is coming out and I want to introduce you to it more than you're calling me with problems. And that's where I see the future of automation and AI is going to get better and better to help us do that job. Technology is where I don't see AI ever fully taking over because you're still going to need us, the human interaction of everything that goes on. Same thing with an operating room. AI is never going to take over an operating room because you're still going to need a brain with the reality of, oh, we got a hemorrhage. What do we do now? Kind of thing.
Got it. Understood. And you did mention AI, and AI has been a popular topic lately.
Mhm.
What are your current thoughts about AI?
I actually use it to my advantage. I'm not going to lie. When I have to sit down and write some scripting to automate some things, I have ChatGPT on my phone, and I look right. Hey, ChatGPT, write me a script for blah 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 blah. It does 90% of the work. I spend 5% of the time reading it versus creating it. I might have to edit a few things for my specific need, and I employ it, and it works. And it's a huge, huge advantage. And it's one of the things I can tell any IT guy out there. If you think ChatGPT is a bad thing, it's worth every bit of the $19.99 a month because it makes my life easier when I need to go automate something. I just, hey, ChatGPT, write me a script for this. And what used to take me 2 hours, I take 20 minutes from beginning to deployed. And it's amazing.
Got it. No, and I totally agree with you. If you're not using it, you should be.
Yeah, no,
Um,
even if you have to write a complicated email to some stakeholders, use ChatGPT. It'll ease your stress of, is this the right kind of email etiquette for this? It's an amazing piece of software.
yeah, no, very true. And then how do you see the role of IT professionals changing in the next decade? And what advice would you give to those entering the field today?
I don't see the role changing too much. We're still going to be that liaison between the non-technical and the technical. We're still going to be the center between making it work, making the end users happy, and making the business thrive and the production behind it. And that much isn't going to change. So the tools, like they have in the last decade, the tools we use, how we approach it, and how fast we can do certain things is just going to get better. And as far as anybody entering the field today, two things: love it or leave it. Period. Don't start there. If this isn't something you know you're going to love doing every day, find something else now because this is going to burn you out faster than anything you've ever done if you don't love it. And absorb anything, everything, and everything. I say it twice from every single person you work with. And the more you can learn, the faster you can learn. I mean, I've seen guys graduate levels of tiers that took me 5 years back in the day. I've seen them do it in 6 months now because they're doing, absorbing, reading, learning, doing. And tertiary, if once you get into a job and you get into a place where you just did an upgrade and you have all these old computers and maybe they're going to donate all the old computers for the client. Hey boss, can I give you $20 to take one home so that I can set up a lab at home? Have a lab. Have a place where you can Work on things you're not sure of without being worried about breaking things you don't want to break. The computers I have in my office for testing what this virus might do or testing this new product or things like that. I don't care if it fries my hard drive. I really don't. It's what it's there for. It's not production. And it helps me learn. And every project I've done in a lab before I've ever deployed it for a customer. And it's made things way better.
Got it. Awesome. And that's great. Before you actually use it on a customer, you
Hmm.
should practice it. And is there anything that you would like to add or share with us?
Not that I can think of. This was actually really fun. This is the first time I've ever done a two-way podcast like this. Thanks for having me. It was insightful for me to go over the questions and think about my own answers ahead of time. And yeah, this is one of the greatest things I've ever done for a living. I've had a lot of people offer me a lot of money to do other things for a living, and I've turned it down because I've done IT across the board in the medical field, for the military, for the automotive industry, for the entertainment field, where I've gotten integrated with audio and visual things, and it's awesome. It's really cool stuff. You are muted, I think.
Yes. My 5-year-old is home today, so I do apologize about that.
No, no worries.
But yes, thank you so much, Matt. And I totally agree with you, everything that you said. I'm excited to learn more about you and, spent some time today. Would you like to just kind of share with everyone of how they could reach you if they're interested in getting in contact with you?
Yeah, y'all. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. Let me see. I don't know my own profile off the top of my head. I believe it's Las Vegas IT Pro on my LinkedIn URL, but you can find me Matt Winchell. Just search for me on LinkedIn. I have video games as my background image, so it's kind of hard to miss me there. And they're all old school games that we used to play as kids. Everything you want to know about me, I have posts there that run the gamut of what I do. I have, work from my cabling, even recent cabling work that I've done and setting up, systems for an audio visual thing that's over at Forum Shops, all the way down to, videos I have on there on, don't be fooled by the managed service providers that, want you to believe that it takes 15 minutes to set your password. I have a video on my LinkedIn that says, this is how long the process takes, and I play both sides of the phone call. It's like, hi, Matt, my password's reset. Oh, okay, we'll watch. And I'm doing it on Office 365. And the video is 42 seconds long. Customers back to work. So, I put a lot of stuff out there, and anybody can feel free to reach out. If I give free advice without going too far into it. If you want me to look at what you think you're getting and help you decide, are you getting what you're paying for? I do that very unbiased. I won't, I tell you, I don't want to know who your IT provider is. What do you feel you're not getting? And I answer that with, this is what you should be looking for. Not what I would provide, but this is what you should be looking for as that end user. And I speak to them as an end user, what I would want in my business if I was searching for that.
Awesome. And we will put that in description. So thank you for sharing that, Matt. And it was a pleasure today. You have a great day.